Hello and welcome to the May 26th edition of Speedway Digest Thursday Night Thunder, the most hardcore motorsports program on the internet. This is episode 236 of the series. I'm your host, Adam Jason Sinclair, and on tonight's program we'll be talking about IndyCar, F1, NASCAR, and whatever other motorsports news pops into conversation. As everyone here knows, this is one of the busiest weekends in the motorsports calendar, with the Indianapolis 500, the Grand Prix of Monaco, and the Coca-Cola 600 all taking place this weekend. Sunday's going to be a really busy day, and it should be a really great day for racing. There have been some rumors surrounding some of the racing. Of course, the Grand Prix of Monaco has long been rumored to be a sticking point in the schedule of Formula One, where some people love it, some people don't. And there's always been chat, especially lately, about the fact that it might not stay on the schedule. Not so, of course, for the Indianapolis 500-mile race or the NASCAR Coca-Cola 600 there at Charlotte. Although this past weekend they did have the All-Star race in Texas, and as I understand, it wasn't exactly the most entertaining event. They had a lot of cautions, and it was the qualifying setup was a little bit different. Didn't go over very well with a lot of the fans. Some of the media didn't think it was a good idea either. I haven't had a lot of time to review it, but I do think that it's kind of something that they've decided to move the All-Star race around, as opposed to having it there at the Charlotte Motor Speedway in Concord, North Carolina all the time. Although it is a historic race there in Concord, and I think it might be best to return to Charlotte Motor Speedway. Then again, it would be kind of cool to see it in Daytona, or maybe even in Homestead. So you never know. Could be really cool. Our guest this evening is going to be discussing the Women Motorsports Initiative and some of the work that she's done with her foundation, the Della Motorsports Next Gen Foundation. She is, of course, the daughter of IndyCar team owner and legend John Della Penna. So that'll be cool to talk to her this evening. She'll be on in about 5 minutes or so. Again, our guest tonight is Michelle Della Penna. With Indy 500 coming up this weekend, the Della Penna Motorsports Next Gen Foundation recently held their inaugural gala at the Della Indy factory. Formed earlier this year, the Della Penna Motorsports Next Gen Foundation aims to empower more young women and girls to get involved in motorsports, and was founded by Michelle Della Penna to honor the legacy of her father, IndyCar team owner and legend, John Della Penna. Now, unfortunately, our co-host, Michael Nally Capello, will not be with us this evening. She is currently out on maternity leave. If you haven't heard that by following her, you heard it here tonight. So she's well along in her pregnancy there. She's going to have a little kid in the next couple of months, and it'll be awesome to see how the little kid there develops in the motorsports world. I know both her and her husband are involved in auto racing. He's more of a demolition derby type guy, but it would be neat to see how that goes. I know she had some aspirations to try and teach her nephew about auto racing a little bit. I don't know how well that's gone with her pregnancy there, but hopefully we'll hear something about that soon. Now, Michael Nally Capello did submit some questions for our guest this evening, so we'll go ahead and throw those her way in about 5 minutes or so. As I stated, our guest is Michelle Della Penna. She'll be on tonight. And she'll be talking a little bit about the foundation, as well as a teeny bit about the Indy 500 weekend. I know she has a lot of experience there in the track, so we'll see how she goes. There's been a lot of discussion this past week about not only Formula One, but IMSA as well. IMSA has some great stuff going on with the introduction of the LMDHs. Lamborghini will be fielding a car in the LMDH field starting next season. It might even start before the end of this season. So next year will be an awesome year for racing with the new IMSA LMDHs, now called the GTP cars again. So that'll be interesting to see how that goes. I'm looking forward to seeing them. I don't know if we'll see them in Daytona as much. I might end up heading up there for the 24-hour race, but as it looks right now, we'll probably end up heading up for the Roar before the Rolex 24, and not really head up there for the Rolex 24 at Daytona next year. We'll probably end up going to Sebring and other races a little bit different next year. We'll see how that goes. But it should be good. It should be a really good year of racing. This year has been a pretty good year of racing, in fact. A lot better than it has been in the past, and it's really cool to see how that stuff's gone. As I stated, there's a lot of changes happening. Or in the IndyCar series, they've got the new motor and the new chassis coming. The motor is coming in the next 2 years, I believe. The chassis keeps getting pushed back. I don't know exactly when they'll be coming out. So we'll see how that changes things as well. It's always a good thing to have racing become more and more modern. As everyone knows, there's a push now to go more electric and more hybrid, and that is the thing for IndyCar as well as for NASCAR and for Formula One and pretty much everybody else. The only one that's not going to do that sort of thing is Formula E. That's all electronic racing, all battery powered, and there's even been some news in that where McLaren is now going to be racing in Formula E starting next season. They're taking over the Mercedes Formula E field, so that'll be interesting to see how that goes. Now let's see. It looks like our guest this evening has called in. So let's go ahead and push some buttons and see if we can get her connected, shall we? Hello, how are you doing this evening?
Doing well. How are you?
I'm doing pretty well. Thank you for coming on. I was very pleased to get the invitation to your little Della Motorsports Next Generation Foundation event, but unfortunately I'm down here in South Florida, and traveling up to Indianapolis for that sort of thing just wasn't in my budget for this year. But thank you for the invitation, and thank you for coming on the show tonight.
Of course. Thanks for having me. I really appreciate it.
First off, what are the origins of the Della Motorsports Next Gen Foundation?
Yeah, I mean, like you said, I grew up in motorsports. I grew up in IndyCar specifically, and it's just been a part of my life for my entire life. I love motorsports. I love racing. And, my dad retired in, the early 2000s and sold the team and did a few different ventures. So, my time in motorsports kind of faded a little bit, and I went on to do different things and went to college and, had some kids, and it just, my life kind of veered off a little bit. But then, I have 3 sons and they all go kart, and my middle son and I were at the kart track, I don't know, about a year ago. And I realized that out of a grid of 20 kids, there were only 2 girls. And so, I got to thinking why there aren't more girls in karting. And then that kind of grew into why there aren't more women in motorsports in general. And as I started to kind of snoop around and research and kind of get back into the industry, I realized that really there's just a big hole in terms of a female involvement, especially women of color. And so since my dad had passed about 2 years ago at that point, I thought, what a great way to sort of honor him and carry on his legacy. Maybe we can create a karting scholarship and underwrite, a karting season for, a couple of young girls. And then that sort of grew into a full-fledged foundation where, the overall reach is just to kind of create exposure to motorsports and provide opportunity.
What programs has the foundation already started to help young women and girls get into the sport?
Well, so far, we've had a couple, we've been really lucky. I reached out to several people in the industry, lots of organizations, lots of old friends and colleagues, and people have been really gracious and excited and really willing to help us. And so, our first event was at Laguna Seca at the IndyCar race last September, and we brought a Girl Scout troop out from Oakland, California. We brought them to the track, and we just got loads of support from the track itself, from all the teams, and we got to give the girls just a full VIP experience. They got to go to the paddock, they got to meet drivers, they got to meet Kara Adams from Firestone, they got to get in race cars, hold steering wheels, just really get an inside look at what motorsports is and what potential careers there might be. And, we gave them lunch, and they got to they really just had a really full, beautiful day. We were so lucky. And so from there, we, have gone on, and we're partnering with Sonoma Raceway. We just had our first karting event where we brought 10 girls out to their karting school there. And we had Michelle Abate and Tati Zimmer, 2 amazing female drivers, come out, talk to the girls. And they got a full lesson in karting and got to suit up and get their helmets on, and they got to go out on the track, and it was really amazing. And so we're going to be doing, partnering with Sonoma again, and we're going to be doing a NASCAR Invitational. We'll bring about 40 girls out to the track and do similar to what we did at Laguna, and they'll get to meet some drivers and get to meet some females in the industry and, look under the hood and check out these really cool cars. And then over the summer, we're going to be doing sort of a karting development program over the course of 3 days, where we'll give them a little more in-depth, hands-on experience about karting, which, should be priming us for 23, which is when we're going to start to roll out our official karting scholarships, as well as fellowships, where we can pair, young girls with a particular interest, let's say engineering or design, with a professional female in the industry, whether it's at, Firestone or Goodyear or something like that, where they'll get to shadow them for a week and really see what they do. And so, that's what we have primed, and we're just really excited about it.
I know there's more and more all the time, but why do you think there aren't many women involved in the world of modern motorsports?
That's a great question. I think traditionally cars has sort of been a male-dominated field. There's been, there's a bit of chauvinism when it comes to women and cars and women wanting to go fast. And I think that there's historically, definitely it's been a boys' club. And also I think that if, you do have kids and you happen to have a son, chances are that if you have a parent who's involved in karting or knows about karting, they're probably going to, no pun intended, but steer the son towards it rather than the daughter. I just still think, as far as we've come, there's just sort of these social and cultural norms that we kind of have to break, because, motorsports is just an incredibly versatile sport. It's not just racing, it's development, it's engineering, it's chemistry, it's physics. I mean, it's just the opportunities for learning and potential careers are really endless. And I just don't think that we are exposing enough girls to these possibilities. There's a lot of female and STEM initiatives, but most of them are not geared towards motorsports. And there's actually only one Masters of Motorsports Engineering program in the country, which is IUPUI in Indianapolis. So, I just don't think that there are really enough programs that are garnering enough interest and awareness that this is out there.
Growing up, what sort of racing were you involved in?
Well, I never raced. I was always the kid on the sidelines doing whatever my dad was asking her to do. So I was like bringing tires or cleaning the cars or running hospitality or bringing food to the pits, or to the paddock rather. But, my father, when he came to this country from Argentina, he raced, Formula Fords up at Northern California at what was once called Sears Point, now Sonoma. And then he had a Formula Atlantic team where, that's where Jimmy Vasser kind of got his professional motorsports start. And then he went into Indy. So, I spent a lot of time in Indianapolis and grew up, have a real soft spot for open wheel racing. I really do. I love all racing, but open wheel really has my heart. And so I grew up, in the shop with the mechanics, just watching them and just soaking up everything that was going on. So, but, this foundation aims to just bring awareness to all motorsports, whether that's motorcycles, whether that's open wheel, whether that's NASCAR, drag racing. Racing is racing, and it's just a good time all the way around.
So what exactly did you discuss there at your launch event in the Della Indy factory on what was the 18th, about 10 days ago now?
Yeah, we were really lucky to be able to partner with Della. It's an absolutely beautiful facility, and we had a really nice group of people that came out and supported us. Stefano DePonte from Della said a few words about my father and just really echoed his support for what we're doing, which was so nice. We had one of the professors from the IUPUI program, along with two graduates, female graduates who've gone on to work at Ganassi and Andretti. And that was really meaningful to hear from them, just about their experience, finding the program, loving engineering, loving STEM, loving cars, not really sure how it was going to all come together, and then finding this program and now working in the field for two really established teams. I mean, it was really great. We had Julia Steinbrenner, who is the co-owner of one of the Andretti cars, who's been a big champion for us since the beginning, and she spoke a little bit about the need for more females. We had a fantastic auction. We had, my gosh, I don't know, 25 or 30 different items / experiences that different teams had donated. And what we didn't sell at the event, we're going to be putting online. So keep an eye out for that. There's some really, really great things there for, for purchase that will go, fully to support our programs. And we just had a really great time. It was a wonderful platform for me to sort of thank everybody for their support, talk about why we're doing this, give a nod to my dad, and sort of, project to the future about what the next sort of, phase of Della Penna Motorsports is going to be.
There's a lot of debate on my next question, but I figured I'd ask you. You might be able to answer a little bit better than some of the others. At what age do you think kids should start getting involved in motorsports?
Well, if you ask my dad, my oldest was karting by the time he was 4. So, I mean, I'm not sure that's recommended for every family, but, I'll tell you, my oldest is 12 and he'll be driving here shortly. And I have to say, I feel a lot better with him behind the wheel, having had karting experience. I think it is really important to understand. I mean, look, it depends on your kid, but, you have kids starting in, soccer or basketball or tennis or swimming or any other sport really young. We were really lucky that my dad, this is what he did. And we sort of ushered in my kids and they really loved it. And they had a little bit of a passion for it. So they've continued to do it. But I mean, I think I think the thing about karting that's really interesting is whether or not you actually have any desire to pursue it in a professional capacity. I think there's something about motorsports that is really important for character building. It is a team sport, right? You have the mechanics, you have your crew, you have people that are there helping you, but really it's just you in the car. And I think there's something about really going deep and understanding yourself, learning how far you can push yourself, grit and tenacity. It's hard. It's hot. You're sweaty. There's dust in your face. I mean, there's nothing glamorous about motorsports, least of all karting. I mean, it is the lowest of the low, right? And spending a weekend out there maybe to get, a top 5 finish. I mean, it's gritty, but I think it can teach you a lot about resilience and how to really dig deep. And my son, my middle son, who's still karting, finished on the podium recently. And it was hard. It was not an easy race for him. He worked really hard to get there. And I think, coming out the other side and seeing that he could do something that was really hard, is an important lesson as a human, right? So I don't know. I think, if you want to get your kids involved in karting, I would say probably 6 or 7 is a good age. The karts don't really go that fast. I don't think it's really ever too young to get a kid working on a car or looking under the hood. I mean, I think that's a fantastic experience. So I think the younger, the better.
And if people were interested in...
I am a big McLaren fan, so Pato O'Ward is definitely top of the list for me. But I am so stoked to see Marco back. I have to say, I grew up, I'm a little bit older than him, but I remember him running around the track as a kid, and I'm good friends with his sister Marissa, and I'm stoked that he's back in the race this year. So I'm hoping those two come out on top.
That's a pretty good choice. I think that personally, I'm kind of pulling for Pato O'Ward as well. He's been on the show a couple times, and he's pretty cool. So I think that would be awesome to see him do really well in the Indy 500 this year.
It'd be great. Yeah, he's a lovely person. So.
Once again, I'd like to thank you very much for coming on the show tonight and wish you all the luck in the world with your foundation. Maybe we can have you on at the end of the year and see how everything went for this year, the first year of your full-time foundation.
I would love it. It would be an honor. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Have a great night.
You too. Thanks.
Once again, that was Michelle Della Penna, who's the head of the Della Penna Motorsports Next Gen Foundation. It's really great to talk to her. And again, I'd like to thank her and her staff for offering to have me come out to their event on the 18th. Unfortunately, I was not able to travel out there, but it is great that she came on the show tonight. And hopefully her foundation does some great work, and it's awesome to have them out there. Are you a race car driver, crew chief, pit member, track owner? Maybe you're just a huge fan of the sport. Contact us to get your spot on the show. After all, you deserve your 50 minutes of fame, and we'd love to hear from you. Easiest way to do that is go to SpeedwayDigest.com. Check out the racing news section and look for me down there. My name's Adam Sinclair, Adam Jason Sinclair, and you can find me there in the racing news section. You can find a profile of me as well as all the ways you can contact me on the internet down there. And also check out our show on Facebook at facebook.com/SD Thursday Night Thunder. That'll give you a pretty good way of contacting me as well. Or you can try contacting me through Twitter. That's at Faborplums, FABORPLUMBS. I research a bunch of drivers through Twitter, and sometimes I end up with some great ideas for future guests. So that's probably a pretty good place to look for me. As I stated, this weekend's going to be a really busy weekend for racing with the Indy 500, the Coca-Cola 600 there at the Charlotte Moore Speedway, and the Grand Prix of Monaco. Not to mention all the local events that are going on this weekend for Memorial Day. I know there's racing taking place in New Smyrna Speedway, as well as other facilities around the state and around the country. No matter where you go, be sure to go out and enjoy a day at the track. If you can't enjoy a day at the track, go ahead and turn on the television. They've got some great coverage, if you can find it. That is the trick nowadays. Sometimes the racing isn't as easy to find as it once was, but it is out there, and you can find it if you're looking for it. We do have a great deal of people on the show next week. We have some people we've rescheduled from past shows because we just had some issues here in the Speedway Digest Thursday Night Thunder headquarters we had to take care of first. So everything seems to be going pretty well now, and I've got a better balance, and I think that we'll have some pretty great guests on next week. On next Thursday, we've got 2 different guests lined up. And on Saturday, we're going to have a special edition show at 10:30, roughly 10:30 in the morning. It might end up being closer to 11 a.m. next Saturday. That's the 4th of June. So we can have an LMP2 driver who races in Europe. He'll be on the show on the 4th. So next week will be an awesome weekend of racing as well. But there'll be the 2 great shows you can listen to on June 2nd. And then again on June 4th, we've got 2 great live programs. As always, this show will be added to the speedwaydigest.podbean.com page pretty soon. Probably be within the next 24 to 36 hours. I'll go ahead and add it. So be sure to check it out there. As I say, I'd like to thank our guest, Michelle Della Penna, for coming on. I'd also like to thank Michael Malali Cavallo for submitting the questions for her. I sort of did a combination thing of both the questions, came up with a pretty good mix of questions from Michelle Della Penna this evening. So that worked out pretty well. Hopefully, after the Indy 500, we're going to end up having Graham Rahal on. He was originally scheduled to be on the show a couple of weeks ago. For those of you who follow me on the social medias, I did mention that briefly, but it was quickly taken down because he wasn't, for whatever reason, his PR people weren't very comfortable with connecting through the Podbean app. Hopefully we can work that out after the race is over, after the 500, and see how that goes. Because we do have we've had like 50 people or so call in using the Podbean app, and it's come out pretty well. So I think it's better than Blog Talk Radio, but Blog Talk Radio was pretty good for years. It did have its issues, but it was pretty good. Personally, I tend to think Podbean is a little bit better, but again, that's just me, and sometimes people aren't very comfortable connecting through apps, and I understand that. But overall, I think Podbean has been very good to me, and it's been very good to the show, and it just it takes a little bit of getting used to, so it'll be pretty cool to see how it evolves. As I say, we've got some great programs lined up in the next few weeks, and we're going to have some awesome new things taking place in this show in the next few months. We might end up even heading out to another race. I'm trying to work on some of that through the FIA, and we'll see if that takes place or not. I don't like the way the FIA does their credentialing right now. I can understand it, but I don't think that it's the best thing. Give you an example. The last time I went to an FIA event, I went to the FIA Formula E Miami E-Prix, which was a few years ago, of course. But at that point, I didn't have to go through as many hoops as I had to go through for this next chance at a FIA Formula E event. And I don't really understand why. I mean, I can get it. They're trying to make it more exclusive and trying to control the people coming to the racing and all that. But it doesn't need to be that complicated. And sometimes when you overcomplicate things, you end up hurting fans and that sort of stuff. I can go on with the stories I had a long time ago about the race there, Homestead, Miami, for the motorcycle race. I've gone into that on the show several years ago, but it just was a little bit too complicated, and I think that they lost some of their support because of it. But I don't think the FIA has that problem right now. I think the FIA has a little bit of a popularity thing, but they're giving away. They're having too many people apply for credentials, and they have more credentials or less credentials than they have people applying. So that's always a good problem to have. And and hopefully it continues with that sort of problem, but hopefully I'm one of the guys who's added to the list. That'll probably be what I do next season as well, is try to go to a few different races, as I stated. I end up trying to head out to St. Petersburg, and I've got some decent connections there in St. Petersburg, and try and get some media stuff for that. Haven't done that yet. I've applied a few times. We got some quasi things for that, but I think next year I might end up going all out and seeing how that goes. In addition, I'm trying to get some tickets for Daytona. I haven't been to Daytona in a little while. We went to the truck race last year. It was cold, it was wet, but it was awesome. And I'm trying to get tickets for Daytona to head up there for the NASCAR event. I'm trying to get hot passes and hang out with all the teams. Because as most of you are aware, we had the guy from Keurig Racing try to schedule to be on the show a couple times, Matt Cowlick Racing, and it just didn't work out. So I'm trying to parlay that into some hot passes for the race there in Daytona coming up this fall. We'll see how that goes. I'd really like to have Matt Cowlick on the show. It would be awesome to talk to a NASCAR team owner, but beggars can't be choosers, as they say sometimes, and we try to make the best of everybody we get. We get some great people on the show. Oh, let's go ahead and mention this. I heard from Jason Pribble. Those of you who are fans of Jason Pribble Motorsports. As you know, he was on the show a while back. The connection wasn't the best, but it was okay. And he was calling us from the Ozarks there when he was about to compete in a Formula 4 event, I believe it is. And the next day, he wasn't on the team anymore. And he expressed some concerns about the team, and he let me know that he's going to be racing in Spec Miata starting this weekend, and pretty much shifting his level of commitment from open wheel racing to sports car racing. And I know there's a lot of opportunities there in sports car. I've had the opportunity to talk to some awesome people in the sports car ranks over the years. Most notably, of course, Tristan Nunez, who's been on this program several times, and of course the people from Delta Wing Racing, Sean Rahal and others, and some of the other teams that we've had a great chance to talk to. So hopefully he has a good chance of succeeding in sports car racing. Not to mention Dakota Dickerson, of course. Dakota Dickerson will hopefully be back on this show sometime in the next few weeks to talk a little bit about how his season's going. I know he's not racing quite as much as he hoped either, but he is having a good season when he does get to compete. And I know he competes. He's busy pretty much every weekend, but he doesn't race every weekend. So he races a bunch of different series as well. But it's pretty good to have the opportunity to talk to Dakota Dickerson and that sort of people. And again, it's pretty good to talk to Jason Pribble. He seems to be a really good guy, and hopefully his career picks up from now. We're hoping to have him back on the show in a month or so. Maybe more like July, so like 5 weeks. But we'll see how that goes. Hopefully he has a great time in the Spec Miata series, and it leads to bigger and better things. With that, be sure to check out past episodes of Thursday Night Thunder, as well as the other shows on the Speedway Digest Radio Network at speedwaydigest.podbean.com. You can also check out this show on Facebook by searching for Speedway Digest Thursday Night Thunder in the search bar, or simply by going to facebook.com/SD Thursday Night Thunder. I also invite you to read the articles covering all aspects of motorsports at speedwaydigest.com. Primarily in the racing news section. We've had some great stuff out there. Mostly I put that out on Saturdays and Sundays now, just because of the way my work schedule is going. But I do have a bunch of different stuff going to be going out this weekend as well. So be sure to check that out. Probably on Saturday afternoon, you can get the biggest bang for your buck there in the racing news section of SpeedwayDigest.com. Maybe Sunday. Check out Sunday afternoon as well. While you're in between races, while you're between the 500 and the 600, go ahead and check out SpeedwayDigest.com. In addition, if you're a fan of South Florida and who isn't, be sure to check out the latest news and information about our slice of paradise at my blog site for Roar Problems Fantastic Finds. We're going to be doing a little bit of stuff for that coming up. I even posted some stuff this weekend from the square, once known as Rosemary Square, and before that known as City Place, and before that known as a really bad section of town in West Palm. But we'll see how that goes. They're going to be going out there on Sunday to see comedian Brian Callen. Now, some of you might know him from all different things he's been on. He's been on the Goldbergs. Where I recently saw him was on How I Met Your Mother. We've been watching that quite a bit. He should be pretty awesome. Again, Brian Callen's going to be out there at the West Palm Beach Improv, which is located in the square in downtown West Palm Beach. Be sure to check out For Plums Fantastic Finds on Facebook, on Twitter at For Plums or at PB Happening. That's where everything is posted for that. And by heading to For Plums Fantastic Finds.wordpress.com. That's FABORPLUMBS fantasticfinds.wordpress.com. Once again, we'd like to thank you for listening and look forward to seeing you again next week in the Thunderdome as we discuss the major issues in the world of modern auto racing. Enjoy your weekend. Enjoy the Daytona. Enjoy the Indianapolis 500, the Grand Prix of Monaco, and of course, the Coca-Cola 600 from Charlotte Motor Speedway. Thanks again, and we talk to you later.